We're going. Okay. A while ago, well, not a while ago, going way back to like 2009, I used to post, I used to make drawings on the I board, which was the Okaki, which was a doodle board. It was like a little Java applet that was in 4chan. They used to have it in 2chan, so that's where it came from. And you could doodle there, and that's how I actually met a few of the artists that some of them I still know, like Jerk and Ak, and that's also where I first saw Sparrow when he would just. That's kind of where he was getting started. Was just on on 4chan doing fucking incredibly degrading porn drawings, but that was just the beginning.
Sounds like a great way to get a good audience too,
Yes,
especially back
exactly.
then,
Yeah,
the
get.
height of the fame of 4chan.
I just realized the my audio might be down. My audio
No,
might
you
not even
better.
be on. Yeah, so I better check that out.
Well, I can hear you, so it's on.
But that I
It's
mean that
definitely
doesn't
on.
that doesn't mean anything. Device properties 95. I don't know if that means anything. All right, never mind. Yeah, I mean I'm so fucking. I don't have a board, and I don't have I usually don't even bother to check. We're kind of tired of doing videos these days. It's funny,
The
people are like,
videos are for plebs.
yeah, people are
The
like,
point
oh,
is not to do videos. The point is to make other better
yes,
works. Videos are a hobby.
building your channel is for the chattel, for the lesser person, the little
The
people,
hoi polloi.
the bougie nobodies. But yeah. So
Normal fags.
normal scam. When I mean, when it comes to like, oh, you have to do daily or scheduled videos on reliable schedule. I don't care about that shit. We don't care about that. And people act like, well, why don't you care? They're immediately mad. Notice how people get so mad so quickly, and I think it's funny. We don't care about when we do videos, though. This was something we wanted to do for a while, though, because, again, recently I was reminded of Endrian, who was another artist on the doodle board, the Okaki doodle board. I think it's pronounced Oekeki, actually, which is just
Oh, keck.
yes, keki, but which is just Japanese for doodle. So and you could make your own little drawings in like a little low res, kind of easy, but it would also show like the animation process of how you drew it optionally. People could watch that, and I always thought that was cool. But it was also nice to just do, like, it was easier than even opening MS Paint, and it would immediately be posted to the board, so people could just you make your own thread, you do a bunch of doodles in it, and people would be like, ooh. And there were some really good people. One of them was Endrian, another was Sparrow, and I remember Graph was popular. I won't. I mean, I guess he was decent, but kind of a whiny bitch weeb. I know that's not nice to say, but it is true.
Personally, I don't care too much about his art.
Yeah, it's like I don't like the idea of making tits so huge that they become just kind of weird and off-putting.
When you draw them so big that they actually become unattractive, you have completely failed as an artist.
You did the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. Anyways, I remember Endrian though doing a lot of really cool stuff. Would do like some Riona and cute Shota Riona adventures of like he I think allegedly he had these really pretty cool ideas of like continuing storylines and just general like weird adventures with like a character that was like, oh, they had this power, and clearly like sort of not fan manga, but it was like almost you could see like a fledgling western manga type artist who was really good, but uh for years I think they disappeared, and like I thought of Endrian recently just out of nowhere, because I think I was looking at like some of Krekov's stuff on Twitter, and I was like, just out of nowhere I thought, I remember Endrian, I wonder what happened. So I Google, and it's like his DeviantArt was empty. I think a couple other accounts were empty. But then I saw a comic on Tapas, which we've said, can have some problems because it's like they, I think, own like a portion or a percentage of whatever you post to Tapas forever or something. It's just some weird contract that they trick you into signing, and it's like, oh, I don't know.
If that's true, that's really unfair.
Yeah, that's and I don't know if I'm getting them mixed up with some other site. I think it was Tapas though, but still,
Feel free to correct us in the comments or in the chat or our Discord.
leave a comment, make sure you still left a comment, unsubscribe, re-hit the bell for uncomment, re-notification. But anyways, I saw that it looked like one of the comics he posted was like either a remake or just the old comic he did of like cute Shota in Gladiator Arena. That's like, oh no, they're in trouble because they're just a cute Shota, but they're a fighter, a muscle Shota, I guess you could say. And that's another comic that he put on Tapas. And one thing I'll say about Tapas is, if you're just looking for a site to host your comic, you did some comics in whatever it is, whatever the fuck it is you did it in a doodle board or something, and you want to throw it up, and you really don't care about having the rights to it. I mean, you kind of should. You kind of should never sign away the rights to anything you make. But, it's as far as this right here, it's called Deprived, and I read through the entire thing, and it goes back to like 2016. And it ended, no, it didn't end, but it sort of went on hiatus a few months ago, where it looks like Endrian may have re-disappeared again, which is a shame because, again, I think his art is great.
The most recent, I can't see how recently the thing was published, but the most recent comment, I think, is October 28, 2019.
Yeah, I think that's about the time that
November 18, 2019. Oh no, hold on.
Because this comic has it has a lot of subscribers. You can see there's a lot of comments of people being like, "Oh, you showed up again. You're back. Yay!" All that stuff. And another thing I really like is that there's almost sort of a doodle board aesthetic where it's like anti-aliased pixel, like kind of hard pixel art, and it probably won't be showing up that great. I can actually zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, these backgrounds are kind of pixelated. The font isn't, so
yeah, you can see the font is just probably done in a Photoshop, Potato Shop, whatever, or Manga Studio, Clip Studio, whatever the fuck. But it has like a very simple, straightforward kind of style where it's just like it almost looks like there's just a simple one single brush width for almost everything that doesn't change. It's like a very thin one. I don't know. And I also have no idea if Endrian is a guy. I'm just going to refer to him as him. That's going to be his preferred pronouns from here on. I don't know. I always thought it was possible Endrian could be female. I don't know. But I will say...
Honestly, it actually doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Person, they, them.
Or rather, it wouldn't normally matter. Now it has to because I have to wonder.
Yeah, and also because other people demand that it's important and that you have to know ahead of time when you refer to somebody.
You have to know, you have to know their exact pronouns.
But anyways.
Because otherwise it's rape.
It's a form of rape, but it's a form of psychic rape, which actually turns it back into being hot again. Anyways, the comic is called Deprived, and it's by Endrian, Endrian. Very easy to find once you just Google that, and it's actually just straight up a retelling or a telling of the beginning of a Dark Souls 3 run. And it works so great as a comic, though, because the beginning is like the introduction of the game, which the story kind of doesn't matter, not to slam anyone, and I think Endrian is into the Dark Souls lore. But I don't give a shit. I always I saw the opening cutscenes and I was like, I don't care. But
Just let me get to the fucking game.
get to the fucking game part of the game. But there's all this stuff, and the bell told when the link of fire is threatened. I played the entire game. I played Dark Souls 3 I think 3 times over. I still don't know what linking the fire is supposed to mean, and I think the game's intentionally vague on it because the game's just about the game, and it's like the setting, and it's like you can learn more about the setting if you want, but you don't have to. But the intro tells you a bunch of weird vague shit about these weird turtle guys who are walking and
I
walking.
played Dark Souls 3 and I couldn't tell you. I beat Dark Souls 3 and I could not tell you what the hell the game is actually supposed to be about.
We actually cooped the entire game. Me and you, both of us, played the entire game like beginning to end together, at least
Apparently,
for 90% of it.
The game is about starting enough campfires that you would start a solar eclipse.
Yeah, on accident, I guess.
That's what the game is about.
Where you're supposed to be stealing It's sort of like steal. It's about 3 hours long. You steal the fire from the gods or something, and then you take it, and then you reignite the fire so that the world may continue. But it's a kind of a bizarre. It's like a not even post-apocalypse world, but it's like post the heat death of the universe, where time itself is like merging and converging with like infinite universes overlapping each other, but they only have a vague overlapping. Like in Dark Souls 1 and 3 that I played, they say time is taking on some weird effects, and sometimes you'll just see the specter of another player who is playing hours or days or maybe years ago, that just will wander. You'll see them wandering around or running or slashing or spinning in circles for like a few seconds, and then they disappear. And you can't interact with them. You just see them. If you see a blood stain and you touch it, like will be seen in this comic actually, if you see a blood stain and touch it, you see where some other player died, and you only see them though, and like what they're reacting to, usually them slashing and rolling around and then falling over and dying, or sometimes jumping off a cliff. And so it's it's that weird kind of like multiverse aspect, but the whole setting is also like a medieval kind of fantasy magic world, where it's like it could be taking place in the year 1000 or something, but it's also clearly like way fantastical. And it goes into the Lords of Cinder, Eldritch, Saint of the Deep, the Abyss Watchers. That was a good boss fight. Yorm the Giant. That's like a weird trick boss fight though. You're supposed to get fucking the Siegfried of Catalina, I think, and he's supposed to use his super duper sword that just fucking cripples Yorm and just makes it a cakewalk, which I didn't even do the first time. I just fucking brought in other phantoms, other players. That's another thing about the game. You can like see summon signs on the ground, touch them, and another player will teleport into your game to help you like do a boss, and when you kill the boss, they return to their world. So it's like this overlapping multiverse where everyone can have a vague interaction with each other, sometimes temporary, sometimes it will go on for a while. And so it's a weird setting for a game, and it's a weird setup, especially for a cooperative game, because it has cooperative, but it's not just this drop in, drop out, and it's not like you connect to your friend server or whatever. It's very random.
It's weird. It's very deliberate to cooperate, but to attack somebody else's game is also deliberate. But having people invade your game,
other people can invade your game, or you can invade other people's games and kill. If you kill the player, you'll get like some souls and an ember and that kind of shit. And so it's weird. It's a weird system, but the and the selling point of the game really was that it's really difficult, but I don't consider it difficult if I was able to finish it. So it's more like a weird kind of challenge. But as far as the story, the beginning of this comic is really just the intro cinematic, that intro FMV. And
leading to the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, and then the
beginning point where you start playing.
Yeah, and the beginning of Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3, I haven't played 2, so I can't speak for that, but the way I remember it, I'm sure Dark Souls 2 is about the same, where at the beginning it's like you can choose your class. It's like who you were when you were alive. It's like you can be a warrior or a thief, and one of them is called the Deprived, which means you basically start off with nothing. You don't have any armor, you don't have any clothes. You get some rags, some tattered rags, and then you get like
The classes also get usually the other classes will get like other stat points and certain traits and trees and stuff.
yeah, some starting stat points in a general direction, which you can always recorrect. You can be like, oh, I'll pick like a priest or something, and then for the rest of the game, you can just dump all your stats into strength and be like, oh, I'm not going to be a priest anymore. So it's just kind of a general suggestion of what kind of person you were when you were alive,
and the Deprived get absolutely none of that.
Yeah, the Deprived get a big club and like a really rickety wooden shield and then no clothes. And so that's what this, and that's for like the challenge. People who are like, oh, Dark Souls is too easy. Or people who've played it over and over again. It's like, I want to play as somebody who's just starting with nothing.
Too fucking easy.
Easy. I could kill him with one fucking hit. So what's going on here is the story Endrian wants to tell is of their Dark Souls 3 waifu, I guess.
Chick Squadron character.
Yes, Chick Squad
story.
Waifu. And the way Dark Souls 3 starts is the way it does in this comic. In fact, this comic is really just running through the beginning of a Dark Souls 3 run as chosen as a female Deprived, which is going to have all sorts of benefits coming up. We're probably not going to read through the whole comic, but I want to at least skim to the end. But one thing right off the bat, the detail on the environments, not only accurate, but it has a really good sense of atmosphere in Endrian's art. That was something I always liked about Endrian, like the sort of skeletal, withered branches hanging off the top, and the graves in the background, and everything looks kind of creepy and decrepit, including the character who, they look like she looks like she woke up from death. And that's actually the point. In the Dark Souls game, you're playing an undead. Not exactly a zombie, although kind of a zombie. Especially in Dark Souls 1. It's funny.
I think, that was in Dark Souls 1 when you didn't have the soul activated. You look like a husk.
Yeah, you were a hollow, technically, which means that you were so old. You were so many thousands or maybe millions of years old, but you couldn't die, that you turned into a withered husk, and yet you became then the chosen undead. That was in Dark Souls 1. And it was funny because you would be like, here, design like what your face is going to look like and your skin tone, and you can make it all like this. And then you start off and you're just a withered husk that doesn't look like any of that. But when you get a humanity and eat it in Dark Souls 1, you take on your real form. In Dark Souls 3, you just look like it right off the bat. And then instead of eating a humanity, you eat an ember, and that lets you summon other players and invade other players' games. So that's the
it makes you. I think it gives you some extra health too.
Yeah, it increases your max health. And then if you die, which you're kind of meant to very regularly, you lose that ember, but you could just eat another. And I had like 70 embers by the end of the game because. If you get summoned into someone else's game and help them kill a boss, it gives you a free ember. And so I would just slap my summon sign down in front of like the great rotted tree boss, and I would just do that over and over again, and I would get like just a shitload of free embers and extra souls. And what I really loved about that is there was no consequences to that. If you die, if you get summoned to someone else's game, helping them do a boss fight, and you die, you just get spit back into wherever you left your summon sign. The consequences are kind of more for the other player, but still, I really like that aspect, that cooperative aspect of helping. I'm helping other players fight some difficult bosses, because the boss battles in Dark Souls are notorious for being sort of a fuck you to the player. Like, just these giant fucking things that will do huge sweeping attacks that will, like, in 3 hits can kill you and that kind of stuff. But, that's not exactly relevant to the comic. The comic, in a way, sort of takes all that out and focuses on the main thing.
Well, we're not reviewing the game, but if I was reviewing the game, I'll be honest, I don't really like the game that much. I mean, we played it Coop. We beat it,
We had
and,
fun
and that
playing
was
it. Coop.
fun.
Yeah, we had fun playing it cooperatively because there are good aspects to it. But it's also not really my type of game. But at the same time, I've been sort of thinking recently of going back to it and just playing it a bit. I don't know.
I mean, I could personally come up with some criticisms
Yeah,
for the game and what I would say they could improve, but
but
we're here to review the
yeah,
comic.
we're here to review a comic. Another aspect is she has this kind of not an insignia, but like a mark on her forehead, which is something I'm not really familiar with from the game. I don't think that's a game thing, but you can kind
I'm
of
also
see.
not familiar with the lore aspect of when she absorbs souls, and it's like, oh, it shows their memories. This
Yeah,
is their life
because
when you absorb their souls.
that doesn't happen in the game. In fact, I'm not even sure if there's any element of this in the Dark Souls comics because I'm pretty sure the Dark Souls comics were just like, here, comic company, we have the rights to make Dark Souls comic. Just make a comic that looks like like visually it has that sort of old Dark Ages armor look. Give it the same aesthetic, and then just make it about what it doesn't have to fit any of the game story or make any
I'm pretty
sense.
sure they're a Japanese company too, but yeah, the game
Yeah, the game. Well, the game
is very
company,
Western.
the game
It's very
developers.
Western, medieval.
Yeah, actually, that's very true. That's a very good point. From Software is a Japanese developer, but they kind of went for a Westaboo kind of thing where it's like the dragons and the demons are very Western inspired. It's all
Westaboo, which
yeah.
is the best kind of a boo.
Yes. But anyways, as I was pointing out though, like this mark on her forehead, you can see a gravestone right next to her head that sort of has that same mark, and it kind of helps to establish, without any dialogue, that basically that she was dead, which is kind of the point of the story is you're a dead person who just can't stay dead, and so you're getting back to things. Where's the next
It's
fucking
also
page?
part of the conceit of
Oh,
why you'll be expected to come back to life so often. The real punishment in the game is losing the souls, which are your currency.
it's your currency and experience, but basically you can die forever, millions of times, and you'll just go back to either the last bonfire or I guess in this case, I've never actually died before getting to the first bonfire in any of the games. You're really not supposed to, but I think if you did, you would basically go back to your coffin if you never made it to a bonfire. And again, the figures, the musculature and that kind of stuff is top notch. The expressions, all that kind of stuff. Here, next again. But I was used to it scrolling down. For some reason, it's using a different system right now. But whatever.
Well, it scrolls down for like the first 10 pages or something.
Yeah, she's. Anyways, so she gets out of her grave and waves to a person, and then it's a skeleton.
But I also especially like the entire thing has her without any shirt or anything, so it's just she's got tits out at all times.
But at the same time, and some of the later pages are marked as mature, but for violence. There's no actual nudity in this comic, so I guess if you're concerned about that, I'm not concerned about that. I don't give a shit. But there's
But yeah, I
no
can
concern
understand
to
how
that.
you'd want to skirt around that in a matter of speaking, and so the artist actually does manage to do that mostly by just having something else in the way.
Yeah, here this panel right here, for example, the first enemy in the game slashes her throat. It's like that's how you know you suck at Dark Souls when the first enemy in the game kills you. Actually, I'm not sure if she's alive or dead. Yeah, she died. She fucking died.
Yes,
And
she died.
and she wakes back up. And I'm almost forgetting to read this left to right, as you should.
Yeah, it's supposed to be left to right. It's
Yes.
not like manga. It's not manga. Mango.
But yeah, after her throat gets slashed by the first, in a way, you could tell she's not aware that it's like the first enemy in the game. When you're playing the game, it's like, okay, everything's an enemy. I got to slash everything. But in this, it's like she doesn't know where she is. She's waking up. The first thing she sees, like, cuts her throat, and she feels her throat, and it's like,
she gets
oh,
one-shotted.
and then she sees her. Basically, when you die, you see your souls, and I like this effect. This because everything's black and white until
it's all black and white except for very minute, specific details. Her eyes, the souls left on the ground, sometimes blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the blood stain, which is again where you die. When you die, you'll leave your blood stain for other players to touch, but you also leave your souls. In this case, she would have none, so she wouldn't be getting anything back. But again, it's establishing sort of how the world works in this. Is that she sees that's where she died, that's where her blood stain is, and the green, the color really it stands out, so she can sort of signify that this is, this has something to do with her. And then she finds, her club and her shield, which she may not remember is hers, but notice also she takes it up, and the stance that she has really shows sort of a familiarity with being able to use it, which is also supposed to be the point, is that whoever she was when she was alive, this was what she was used to. That's your class. You're picking your class. And so she's going back, and again, I really like the expressions here. They're good expressive stuff, but also the sort of scratchy detail that shows she herself may be kind of decrepit, just like this rotty old shield that she has. That she's been dead for a while or something. She gets her souls back. Doesn't really get anything out of it, but now she's going to get revenge on the weakest enemy in the game. Which, again, the weakest enemy in the game can still kill you. Usually not in one hit, although if you're deprived, again, you're starting off with, no stats, none of the other stuff. You're going to build yourself out of nothing when you're picking deprived, which is another reason why people do it. But, again, the sense of motion and action here is
I especially
fantastic.
like how when she wakes up and gets out of her grave and then hugs her knees like a rape victim.
Yes. Yeah, there's a sense of trauma of, she actually felt her throat being slashed open. And so, there's that aspect.
It's really climbing into the atmosphere of what if you were a real person. It's like Dark Souls VR.
Yeah, it makes it more visceral.
What if you were playing Dark Souls VR? Well, it would be kind of like this.
That does sound kind of cool, by the way. Dark Souls VR.
Yes.
I don't know, but
just imagine that.
Also, at the end
Dark Souls has always had really good art design too.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's one thing that really pulled people in. The art design, the atmosphere, some of the environments just look fantastic. If you see it in the game itself, and I think Endrian does a really good job because it's really good with environments. And
also, this is wordless storytelling.
Yes,
they actually add. At the bottom, in the description for it, they actually add a narration, but it's completely unnecessary for reading the rest of the comic.
Yeah, here, ND creator, he turned sharply, having apparently done just that, and let out a breathless grunt as he heaved up his broken sword and ran at me. This time I was ready. I snapped up the shield to catch the blade more. And yeah, so I could read that. I don't have to because, again, Endrian has a good understanding and is, in a way, is experimenting. And this is something we've always said about webcomics. It's a great way to experiment. It's what you should be. If you really care about making comics, you need to get your experimentation in. Do something. Make something disposable.
Don't
put a lot
wait
of work
until
into it.
Stop waiting until you have the 5,000 required YouTube subs.
Yeah, that's not a real belief.
You can have a successful YouTube channel.
That's not a real belief. That's something that only people pretend to believe.
It's a fake goal.
It's a fake belief that people don't actually have. It's something they just tell people to make people think, hey, I have real beliefs. Here's my belief. If you're going to make comics, you need to have 5,000 YouTube subscribers.
It's a very crab mentality. It's like, you've made this great art, but you don't have as many YouTube subs as me, so you're not allowed to have more success.
Which goes to show, anyone who ever says anything like that, if you're going to make a comic, you got to have YouTube subscribers, you got to have a fan base already built up. Those people will never make anything interesting in their entire lives, and indeed they haven't. They've only made
bad
stuff.
People on the inside
yes,
too.
Yes. But they've only made stuff that has appealed to shallow, empty nerds who have no lives and no taste. They don't have any interest in genuinely unique, original,
Nerds,
creative things. They only
nerds
have
who
an interest.
deserve to be bullied.
Yes, they only have an interest in shallow, like corporate IP fan fiction milking that just doesn't mean anything. It's like, look at the super guy punch.
Look at
guy
the,
and
look at
just,
this. It's Spider-Man. He's my favorite corporate property.
Yeah, exactly. A corporate
It's like,
logo.
why do you like it though? Because I read it when I was a child and it was very popular and successful. Okay, but why do you like it? That is not an answer.
And then the NPC getting angry face. That's yes. How the fucking
processing followed by angry face.
Yes, that's how your average American comic creator. And this is a huge exception. Now, this is in a way this is like fan fiction, but it's taking it in a new original direction.
Especially since he started on like fucking a lot of those people, they got into art because they really loved being able to do it for the sake of the art.
Yeah, to create. They wanted to actually create. They didn't want to make fan fiction of a fucking an empty corporate property. In a way, this doesn't apply. I know this is fan fiction. It even says at the bottom, Deprived is a work of fan art and fiction, and not officially endorsed by From Software. The thing is, what he's doing here is flexing artistic muscle, trying out things, trying out new things.
It's an intense flex on Comicsgate.
Yeah, and it's in a way it's not meant to be. It's not meant to show. It's not meant to be sold. It's not meant to be like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do.
If you really love the craft enough, you don't care if you don't make $1 million.
Again,
you're not here to make $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. You're not here to get YouTube subscriber fan base and make your He made $1 million. This is what Endrian is showing: is you can take something you like and make art or a story based on it, just for your own edification, to see what you can do, not to make $1 million and be like, but it's
I'm going to get a huge following so that I can order my following to attack my other fucking competition.
Or
no, why would you?
Or someone someone they don't like for reasons that are not valid. Just stupid.
You
like
don't
that.
love the craft. You don't love creation.
Yeah,
if you do something like that,
every single person in Comicsgate combined will never love comics the way Endrian does here. And again, Endrian is probably just doing this as a hobby, and disappeared. So they're
on that subject also
working and doing something else.
This isn't even anime style. This is basically Western art style.
Yeah,
but it's with like anime expressivism.
Yeah, it's influences. Yeah, there's a huge influence from manga, but in a way, it's clearly not trying to ape that manga style. In a way, it's more reminiscent of the style specifically in Berserk, which is also very Westaboo. And I think Dark Souls probably took a huge inspiration from Berserk. Because almost everything in Berserk, it's Japanese, but a lot of the stuff done in it is very reminiscent. The scenery and the worlds and the names of the places are basically European. They're British and French and Spanish and Italian and poppy seed and hot ranch and all that stuff. Here, this page here, though, when she kills the first enemy in the entire game, and like its sovereignless souls fly into her, and suddenly she's hit with a memory of a location. Most likely, this location, what could be thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago.
Probably the memory of the person she killed. That's what I assume.
That's clearly what's actually going on. Is she just absorbed the memory of the person she killed, who was once a person who had hopes and dreams and thoughts and a life. And after who knows how many possible millennia have passed, they're just
how many lifetimes,
an undying corpse who just, has this vague
Probably with
in
no actual mind behind it.
yeah, but also
No
look,
actual memories of their own or something. I don't know.
yeah, but
It doesn't really matter that much. It's like a glimpse. It's like one panel.
yeah, but also kind of a nice, almost a full splash page. And in fact, it goes to show here, this is what the guy looked like when he was alive, looking at the sun, praising the sun, perhaps. But the scenery here, you can see Endrian has a real taste for like the environment. And this is also very reminiscent of Dark Souls. Sometimes you would see like a cliff overlook or the ruins of some ancient civilization that is sometimes literally falling off a cliff because
That was
so
actually one of
many.
the things. I think it was like fucking whatever it was, Yahtzee, when he reviewed it. He was like, games should
Neonzi.
make you look. We don't have a funny name to call him to insult him, like Metal Spoony.
Well,
But
there's
his
Niatzi or just Nazi.
he is a Nazi. But he in his review he said the game should make you look up more because the scenery is very amazing looking.
They put a lot of work into like the clouds and the sunrises and stuff, or the
Mhm.
moonrises, because
Like distant mountains,
in a way
stuff
the
like that.
the whole point of the game, also the point of the setting, is essentially sun worship, where praise the sun became a meme in the game because it's a message you could slap down. I didn't even get to the orange soapstone, and I'm not going to, but that's a message you can slap down that just says praise the sun, and it's a way, it's just an exaltation of joy or happiness. But you
And first
see,
off, I can see the sun.
yes, I could see the sun. Okay, kind of lends a lot to the credibility. But in Dark Souls one of the first friendly NPCs you meet, who's like maybe an hour into the game or so, is he's wearing just a big insignia of a sun, and it looks very British, looks very old Englishy, if you will. And so there's a lot of praising the sun and sun worship in the entire mythos of Dark Souls. It kind of takes the religious, the god aspect out though, and replaces it with like the fire or the sun. In a way, the sun is the ultimate fire, but the whole point of the game is you're supposed to be killing the lords
The
of Cinder
ultimate
to link the
warmth.
fire. Yeah,
The ultimate warmth and light.
the ultimate warmth. In fact, your main healing item in the game is called the Estus Flask, which just means heat, and you drink from it. You're basically drinking like heat, and you recharge it at bonfires. So everything circles around heat, fire, the sun. It's a
Kind of like
very unified kind of.
Those Lost Planet games where you have to collect just shitloads of excess heat,
Yeah, just got to collect all this heat.
and that's your health. And it
Anyways,
just goes to insane amounts.
this environment here, though, in this panel, big partial splash page in a way, looks fantastic, and it has a great connection to Dark Souls, because Dark Souls is about kind of showing you some fantastical looking environments. In a way, though, this one is not in the game, and I think that's in a way it's cool because this in a way builds on the game something you never see. And she's thinking about it, like she got a glimpse of him in the ancient times, and now he's just this withered corpse, and it's kind of tragic for just maybe a panel. And then she looks up to the
Recognizing the actual human tragedy of it, but just for a moment.
yeah, just for a brief moment, and then you could tell also it's that same environment that she was just looking at. It's the fountain that's just broken down now, and it's like you just have no idea how many years may have passed from those memories. And that's one thing about Dark Souls, but that's captured very well in this game. And I think Endrian probably captures the whole mood of Dark Souls better than the officially licensed Dark Souls. Because officially licensed comics are the lowest form of art, basically. They're just an empty corporate cash-in, tie-in. Here we can make a few quick bucks. They don't mean anything. They don't have anything to do with the real story. The writers of the original story have nothing to do with the comics. All that kind of shit. It's something that, like, like a company that has the rights to the $7 million Man or whatever the fuck, the Amazing Bionic Woman or something. It's like, hey, we'll make a new spin-off just in the comics, and like anyone gives a shit. And usually they don't, and it just fucking gets canceled after like half a year. Anyways, back to this comic though. She sees like some glowy stuff, and again, it's a nice effect because there's a lot of this halftone effect for shading with like the kind of hard pixels, which I personally like. I actually like the style of like the anti-aliased line work here. That's still really solid and really detailed. And,
well, it definitely
expressive.
it should not prevent anyone from being able to enjoy this.
Yeah, again, that's another thing that fake people
If that
tend to have
prevents
as
you
opinions.
from, yes, if this prevents you from enjoying it, you don't actually enjoy comics. You
Yeah.
probably want to read cape shit.
Yeah, people who enjoy cape shit really don't enjoy comics that much.
This is already leagues ahead and above any superhero comic.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I saw this. It was like, oh, Endrian. Hey, Endrian did a comic. Is this about Dark Souls? No, it's a Dark. And then immediately, like, it's like over 100 pages, maybe. I read the entire thing in one sitting easily because it just breezes past. It's really nice, easy on the eyes art. The deprived lady in this has a nice hips to waist ratio too.
Nice,
I like
also bust, nice musculature.
Yeah, she's fit, but fucking without losing the fun bags. That's very important. That's always important in any comic storytelling.
And they sure are on display.
Anyways, so she learned her lesson. She's approaching. She's making her next approaches with her shield up, which is an important lesson you need to learn if you're playing Dark Souls at all. You got to have your shield at the ready as much as humanly possible. Also,
don't bother trying to parry either.
Yeah, fuck parrying. Nobody needs that parry shit in their lives.
Miss me with that parry shit.
But it also looks like this guy, he gets up and slashes at her with a broken sword. It looks like he just takes her entire pinky off with it. That you see like a streak of blood. It goes over the shield, but it goes over just a bit of her hand, and it looks like it just rips her pinky straight off.
Her pinky's still there, but you can see her hand has a deep cut in it.
Yeah.
In the next page, I think.
Yeah, she bashes this guy.
I'm ahead of you a bit.
Again, there's like a little inset panel
Yeah.
that's just a quick glimpse into a memory of who she just bashed, and again she like that touch of tragedy to it. Yeah, maybe her pinky's not fucked up, but there's like a big
Well, you see it in the next page. You see it in the page because you see the wound in her hand. It's actually just slightly almost unnoticeable until you see the next page.
Oh yeah, it's not her pinky. Okay, yeah. Right here where here's the Estus flask, she drinks out of it, and you can see this sort of dark line coming from the top of her hand. And then you see this dark slash on her hand heals.
Also, again,
closes up.
Estus flask, all bright orangey, and
Yeah.
then this whole panel where she drinks from it is all orange.
Yeah, it's very signified. And then there's the
excellent use of minimal color.
Yeah, exactly. Very specific use of color.
Two close-up panels on her hand, wounded and then healed when she drinks from it.
A very important establishing close-ups that. One thing I'll say is that it's a little hard in one of these to make out that the cut, but you can kind of taken together.
I will say that.
Taken all together, I think it really works to establish context.
And again, this is free. It's not like I had to pay $2.50 or $25 to read this.
But I would.
It's 130 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't pay $20, but I would definitely pay like $2.50.
Yeah. I would,
But it's free. It's free.
Yeah. She also gets the magic Estus flask, which I never used. I was just all about.
I was never a spellcaster except to cast heals, and in that case, you have to take away your healing flasks in order to be able to carry more magic ones.
Yeah, basically what I would do is I considered my healing. I'd have my healing talisman. I would pop it twice, and it would be like, that's 2 free heals that I can use aside from my Estus flask. They're weaker than the Estus flask, and you can't upgrade it. But whatever, they're free heals. That's good for me. That's what I'll use my magic on, and I never put any more points into magic, which is kind of nice.
You can apparently do that, though. You could be a magic user.
Yeah, it
I have
always
no idea what it's like.
always vaguely scared me, the idea of just either going with you can go with both, though. The game does support going with
Yeah.
sword and board and
You
or
can be
magic.
very hybrid. You can be very much a hybrid player.
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering, is this story going to turn out that way? But I don't think so. I think the story is going to just focus on sword and board if it ever continues again, which I hope it does. But in this next
Also,
panel,
one interesting thing though is at the top of the page is when she switches to the Estus flask, her weapon kind of disintegrates, which that's not an effect that's actually in the game.
yeah, I think
That's
that's
just in this comic.
I think it's to establish the sort of the changing of inventory and the focus. In a way, it's almost like an in joke of like, where does your weapon go when you holster it in a video game? And it's just like right here, it's just evaporating into nothingness until she pulls it back out again.
From the ether, her nano machines.
Yes, her
Her nano machines.
rearranged it into a different form. But I mean, it's a magic world. It's a magical world, just like they said at the end of Calvin and Hobbes. It's Dark Souls, just like Calvin and Hobbes. So I guess Calvin and Hobbes is the Dark Souls of newspaper strips because
Yes, it certainly is.
they're both magical worlds. Um, anyways, I like how the beginning of this page though it has a background kind of darkened out and
They're both better than Beetle Bailey.
yes.
But yeah, no.
It's background kind of darkened out as you see an arrow, though, in a nice light, a sort of lit up effect, flying past her to grab the reader's focus and also to signify her focus, like the background.
She's suddenly in danger.
Yeah, the background isn't important in most panels, and notice in the next panel there is no background, and then in the following
This is
panel,
a super detailed background too.
Yeah.
It's like it's a graveyard, and there's like a lot of trees, some buildings, and
rotting old
hills
trees
that
that
go
are
up.
rotting old trees that look like they're in ground that was uneven or destroyed or ruined. I might actually be getting the coronavirus right now. Anyways.
Maybe you should just at least have a throat drop.
Yeah, well, I mean, I need water. That's what I really need. But we'll get through this. We weren't planning to.
Honestly, we don't have to. Yeah, because it's 130 pages. We're not going to review the whole thing.
I do want to get to the first boss fight, but she doesn't go to the first proper boss fight. She goes to the fucking crystal lizard, and I was thinking of skipping through that.
Yeah, actually, no. Yeah, the fucking first boss fight's like on page 100, and we're in page 20 or something.
Yeah,
like
we're
15.
not even close. But here, I'm just showing. I want to show this is a good use of background usage because again, this first one you see the background, but it's dulled out to show the main focus, her in the center and an arrow shooting past. Then in the next panel, no background because the focus is just her face and her reaction and her expression, and then again. It's like this shows the environment because then it shows who shot the arrow, where they are in relation to her. These are all like masterful comic artist tricks. This is what an actual comic artist pro is like. Something that people call themselves comic artist pros actually don't know and are not competent
They
doing.
could take quite a few lessons just from looking at this comic.
Yes, exactly. And that's why we're reviewing this, because anyone who is looking to make comics as an artist or as a writer, you want to have this kind of understanding of when to show, when not to show, what to show, and when and why and how. Like, say in the second panel here, if there was a background, it would make the panel too messy. It would fuck with the composition. And you don't want that. You want the reader's attention to be as clean as possible. You want the reader to know what they're supposed to be looking at. And again, the environments. And it's funny because the environment's just directly based off of the introductory area of Dark Souls 3. You can tell. Like, this is like behind her in this first panel is sort of that back. It's the stairs that go up, and there's a couple other enemies back there. That's like one of them teaches you about parrying or backstabbing or something like that. And it's cool how well he's recreated it in the space of a comic. And again, another arrow flying by as she's running. You could see he put a lot of work into actually detailing her musculature, which is hot. Also, the way the arrow's shooting past one of
her musculature, but also her the arrow actually manages to cover her, so it's completely work safe. This isn't porn.
Totally work safe. It's totally disease free. I also like this. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This has 7 panels, and it makes good use of the space. Like usually in 7 panels, if you have 7 panels in a page, it's really cramped. A lot of comic artists kind of don't know how to do a page with 7 panels without just completely shedding the detail or making things too zoomed in improperly.
Especially if from the big two, the supposed professionals of the medium.
Even a lot of people who do webcomics, I think, or that kind of stuff. It really depends, but this is 7 panels.
Well, they have an excuse. The people who make webcomics have an excuse.
This is 7 panels, though, and it's really clean and clear and coherent. That's the most important thing, is that this is completely, fully coherent. You can see the arrows shooting by. The enemies in this game, especially in this part of the game, don't even shoot arrows this fast. But it works in this to show some really good action. Also, some good use of speed lines that's not too obnoxious. I like that. But not in every panel. And then there's also like the sort of motion blur lines, which is different from speed lines. Like this panel where she's running, and then the next panel, you can actually see a hint of orange down here. Off to the side.
Actually a sign.
Yeah, which is a message. Yeah, it's an orange soapstone message, which is how you can actually communicate to other players in the game. And also kind of how they teach you some tutorial stuff in the game, too. But in this, then, there's like a blur effects as she sort of skids into cover. And that's really cool. And immediately, it's just like very simple. It's like one corpse shooting arrows as she's running, and immediately the action is incredibly dynamic. It's so much better than American comics, the big two anyways, or people inspired, the shallow empty nerds who are inspired by the big two. You can see this has way more influence from various many sources. I really like how her eyes look in this, because you get a nice detailed look up, and they have that kind of glow, which is funny because in the game she doesn't look like this. I think that's just something Endrian likes, is that sort of glowy effect on the eyes. It's almost a characteristic of his or their art or something. But here, like she sort of is spying on this crossbow archer. And then he sort of defaults back to
using
being
stealth.
Yeah, she sort of defaults back to being idle because she, got into cover. And then, and then here's that orange soapstone message.
It actually shows what the message is at the bottom of the page.
Oh yeah, which I didn't actually look at. Hold on a second. Let me look at that. I took a moment from the. I'm happy to take whatever small relief.
It's at the bottom of the page.
Oh, no.
Trans, the unseen blade cuts deepest.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even look that close. It also says it here, the unseen blade cuts deepest, which is, it's funny, it's a sort of notification of how to do stealth attacks. In the game, it just says, use stealth attack for critical hit. It's more straightforward in the game. In this,
I'm pretty sure it's like a developer message too. There's 2 ways.
Yes.
2 kinds of these messages you'll find. One is from developers, and it's usually tutorial stuff, and the other is actually player made.
Yeah, the player made you can kind of tell because they have a rating on them, and the tutorial developer messages don't have a rating on them. You can upvote and downvote them, for fun, and I think it depends. It will make it depend on how often that message will show up if people downvote it a lot or something. And usually the ones that get upvoted the most are like try finger butt hole or something. Just really stupid shit.
Goofy or amazing chest.
Yeah, amazing chest ahead.
Right in front of a treasure chest.
Yes, or a picture of fucking I forgot who it was, not Gwendolyn or something, but that one chick. who had the giant tits in Dark Souls 1. Literally giant tits, because each one of her tits was bigger than your body, because she was actually a giantess who was like 100 feet tall. Anyways,
Which is also hot.
so the message...
That's pretty hot.
That's pretty hot. So this message sort of gives her a hint that she can get a critical hit by getting a sneak attack on this guy. And again, the expressions here I think are just great, with the sort of determination and
Just compared to this, to the traced porn faces, or otherwise just the goofy retard faces of most Marvel comics.
or the bland, like trying too hard to be realistic, photorealistic, real to life looking faces that then are like traced from photos, or they don't look right, they don't look expressive enough, as opposed to this where it's like very cleanly expressive, because it has that sort of, not cartoony, but it's stylized, and it actually allows it to be more expressive. Yeah, so she fucking gets a nice crit. And it's another thing about this comic, and because it's a web comic, it's free to take its time and let you read like as fast. You can skim through this as fast as possible. She kills this guy and gets another hint of memory that's like a little more romantic, and she's like, whoa. And she's like, whoa, did I just see something I wasn't supposed to see? Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what she's thinking here, is nice. Anyway, she looks down the absolute wrong path. Please don't go this way. There's warning messages in the game telling you, do not go this way. She's bashing some more. Here's another thing. Just another quick, like, she smashes this guy and then gets another hint of, like, the sort of the cathedral part, the whole area, some of the areas of Lothric and that kind of stuff. I was trying to think of that one area later in the game that's, with the giant and the fucking... in Dark Souls 1, it was a place where you fight Smough and friends. And it's just, it's like a big castle cathedral city, and it's just creepy, and it's cool to see in Dark Souls 3, but in Dark Souls 3 it's like switched around, so it's not even sort of the right place. And I forgot the name of it, and I know Dark Souls fans are going to be like, oh, it was called this. Why can't you remember it? And I'm just nothing. I haven't played it in a while, and I haven't thought about it. It would probably come to mind usually.
I've only played it one time.
Yeah. Anyways, but it's a cool place, and I'm wondering. I don't think this is what this person is looking at though in this memory. That was just coming to mind. Anyways, this comic though is taking its time, and I really I like that, and that's another thing that webcomics can do in a comic book, and in the writer's room also, as Preston makes a good point, saying that your the stakes and your characters' motivations, or what they want, should at least be, some of that should be told in the first 10 pages. The reason why you want to read this should be told in the first 10 pages, but in webcomics, it can be very different. So far, we're just seeing somebody, they woke up from the dead, and they're fucking going through this. And I still find this completely engrossing. Not even because I played Dark Souls 3. I think that might help, but the action and the art really pull through, because it's really the beginning of Dark Souls 3, so it's like, I know where this is going. She didn't even get to the first bonfire, which is only like 2 minutes ahead of the game, and so far we're several pages in and haven't even gotten close to that first bonfire. But what we do get though is some really nice Riona. Again, she gets just slashed right down the middle. Apparently she wasn't paying attention.
She gets her tits ripped off.
She fucking... Well, it's like right down the middle. He gets a nice, with a broken sword, just slashed right down the middle of her tits.
It does look kind of like she is like backpedaling just right as the strike hits.
Yeah, it looks like she's getting back, so she's not getting just slashed right open. There's another thing, though. Being undead in this game... you can get impaled, you could get backstabbed, and still ultimately walk it off as long as you're not dead. And then if you are dead, you just go back to your last bonfire. So death is really just again, it's a weird universe where death kind of doesn't mean anything. It's sort of like it's very H.P. Lovecraft, where even death is dead at this point. Um, and instead of being about killing enemies, it's really about taking their souls. Because once you rest at a bonfire, you refilled your Estus flask and get all your health back and shit. But all the enemies come right back to life, except for bosses. But all of these enemies here, they come right back to life as soon as you rest at a bonfire. And it's an important factor because then you can go re-kill them again and get more souls. And you can use that as currency to buy items or as experience to level yourself up and build up your stats. Like by the end of Dark Souls 3, by the end of Dark Souls 1 and 3, I think I was like at least a level 110. I had done tons and tons of grinding, and I was like, I'm gonna
Honestly, though, for me, though, that's not a positive for the game.
Well, not exactly, but I was kind of into it. I was like, at least I can do this. At least it's not like, no, you gotta fucking get your ass kicked by this boss in our terms. It's like, no, you can come back. You can come back if you and we didn't usually have to, especially because you can bring other people into boss fights, and they can help. They can draw the boss's attention away, which is good. But again, not getting that into the comic. I just kind of like talking about it because Dark Souls, not really my kind of thing, but at the same time, I found myself kind of being drawn back into wanting to play it recently, but only really because of the coop aspect.
I'll say this, because, again, I could review the game if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I definitely see the appeal. I understand the appeal. Yeah. I see the appeal. I do not understand the popularity. It's like one of the most popular video games in the last decade.
I think the popularity comes from how many games hold your hand so much that they're meant to just be cakewalked through without much difficulty. And in Dark Souls, it's like there's no hand holding. There's none of that. It's like you got to make your own way, struggle.
I understand all of that, but even then, the game also kind of commits a lot of obvious mistakes.
Yeah,
for me, it's not enough to get me through the game.
There are some parts where the game is just so massively obtuse that I cannot approve of its behavior. But again,
there's a lot of stuff I could say they could fix. I could give them the advice on how to fix all those things, but ultimately, it doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, but ultimately, also, none of those problems are in this comic because it's just a comic. Also,
in fact, one of the things that the game itself doesn't have is hot chicks with huge milkers.
You know what I'll give Dark Souls? You can play as a female Deprived, and but the thing is, you can't really make her exactly this hot. Like they look a little too realistic.
I'm pretty sure she's not topless. Is she actually topless in the game? I don't think it is.
You can't remove your top from any of the female characters. You get the loincloth. Clearly,
1 out of 10.
It's
0 out of 10.
It's a little, I guess you could say, self-indulgent, but again, that's another strength of webcomics is Endrian is just making, I don't know, but Endrian's just making this comic for himself or Zerself or whatever.
Zers.
It doesn't matter. Like the rules of storytelling don't matter because it's just something they're making for themselves.
Also, the
and
rules
you can take
of
it on your own terms
social justice and political correctness don't matter.
Yeah, it's not even a question. But yeah, I like this.
Not only should they not matter, but it's a good example of how of the downfall of modern society that those people are still allowed to have a voice and a vote.
Yes, they should have their rights removed. But that's
they should have their tits ripped off.
Yes, exactly. Possibly by a zombie. I mean, I'm not too particular.
I'm not particular. You're God. You can do whatever.
Yeah. Anyways, this panel, though, is great. You could see the sort of broken sword hilt that may have gone into her arm or just her shield. I can't tell exactly, but it doesn't matter. She basically absorbed that attack, sort of disarmed...
Soaked it, like a damage sponge did.
Yeah, soaked it, disarmed the guy in a way, just in a way unique to this comic, and then just, like, does this front kick like in the game. But again, the blur effect that he does on this kick is, I think, it's a motion effect that most Western artists growing up on manga are learning. And
They better learn.
and yeah, anyone like say old, comic artists older than like 30 who have not caught on to the stylistic options. Not that you have to do it, but just the awareness of how much more dynamic this looks than any of the because we reviewed a lot of comics.
Origin in particular is the one that I
Yes.
remember doing a lot of this
Origin's
very expertly too.
Yeah, that's very manga.
Which we reviewed.
Yeah, the effect, the blur effect on the kick, the sort of speed some slight speed lines, but the movement, everything is so dynamic in this. I also like how the tense musculature, and also how the big slash wound over her chest helps cover up her tits in a way, very tasteful. But it's like
it's tasteful in its tastelessness.
Yeah, which is
it
sure
is
good.
Actually, it's almost unnoticeable. It's like you don't even think about it. It's like, oh, tits. No, you don't even have to think about it. It's just like, oh, action.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's the key thing. That's what takes your focus.
Yeah, and it's fantastic action too. It's better than it's better than so many American comics. So many American comics that grew up only learning from American cape shit, refusing to learn from any other source. That's why American comics are so irrelevant.
They were so trained. Irrelevant. It's like they were trained wrong on purpose.
Yes,
as a joke.
It's like they really don't know, and that's why they're going away. That's why nobody cares about them. That's why Comicsgate is a sub niche of a sub niche that doesn't matter. It doesn't even come close to mattering, and nobody cares. It's
incredible how bitter they are too about that. They're so bitter,
as they should, because no one cares about them. They're not important. They're never going to be important.
They wasted all that time,
yes,
learning incorrectly, and now they're irrelevant.
Or ignoring the lessons of the new generation, of the new era. This is the new era of comics. This is representative of the new era of comics. If you're not doing it like this, no one cares about what you do.
It's not just different. It's not subjective. This is objectively better.
Yes, it's...
I don't care what you have to say about, it's not... But I have my cape shit art style. I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. It's inferior. You're inferior if you aren't at least willing to learn, willing to improve. We criticize
willing to evolve,
to improve.
It really is evolve or die, and Comicsgate was always based on not evolving.
You should always be willing to get better at what you do.
Yeah, anyone who is a fan of Endrian and wonders why we're bringing up Comicsgate, it's because it's relevant. It's relevant to us, anyways.
It's an extremely relevant topic for the entire concept of independent comic creation.
Yeah, and the evolution of the art form, the medium of comics is always going to be bigger than some people's personal interest. This is interesting also, like she kills the guy, the souls are coming out, and she almost seems to recoil at it, at just the idea of, I don't know, of absorbing the souls and seeing the memories, but it's like an extra sad memory of Puppo and this deformed guy.
Sad doggo, happy memories.
Yeah, and happy memories. So you could tell she's going to be, just feeling bad about it. Yeah, and basically sees the grave, possibly of the dog.
It's a pretty effective moment that really humanizes otherwise a character that hasn't spoken.
Yeah, it helps bring the emotional core that the video game doesn't have, because it's a video game. You don't need that. But this, it's telling its story without dialogue.
Yeah, a completely wordless storytelling, and it succeeds at that.
At some point, it's almost like every kill she does on, these shambling dead bodies is like an assault on her mind from their memories. And it kind of takes it off guard here, because as she's crying now, all of a sudden, one of the bow guy shows up, and he's shooting at her, and she's, barely dodges in time and all that stuff. Past one of the messages, I'm not sure if it was the same message she read earlier or if it was the warning. Oh yeah, it was the warning message. See, it goes to show she wasn't intentionally going after. Some people do that. Some people are like, oh, the big warning message. I don't care. I'm going after the big crystal lizard guy, the great crystal lizard, as it says. And this is like the optional sub boss. And immediately, like as soon as she faces it down, cut back to her getting out of her coffin. And also this time passing effect. It's another thing.
It's so big. It probably mounted her to death.
Yes, you can't say for sure, but in my head canon, I can say for sure.
In my head movies.
Yes, in my head movies. But
in my head movies, she got fucked to death.
Yes,
by the crystal lizard.
Yeah, which I'm one of those people that just ignored the Great Crystal. I saw the warning message and I was like, no, I'm out of here. Maybe I'll come back later, and I did come back later.
Warning taken.
Yes, warning properly taken. Yeah, I won't say I was good at Dark Souls. I will just say though, I did ultimately finish it.
But also, this page where she's a nice passage of time.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
The splits and the panels.
See, this is another lesson.
If they're called.
The gutters that show like these thin panels right along the top show a passage of time of like darkening going to light of her getting up and
the loading screen. It's the loading screen.
Yeah, in a way, yes. But it's also this is like an old classic comics lesson that even a lot of the pros, these so-called professionals in the comics industry, suck at or are unaware of. They're not good at storytelling. Again, you can learn a lot of lessons about how to tell a story well visually without dialogue. That doesn't mean, though, that there's no writing. There is right. See, that's another thing that a lot of comic pros are like 40, 50-year-old comic book pros in the American comics industry are hilariously clueless about. They actually think that if a comic has no dialogue, that means it wasn't written.
Wasn't that true for Marvel? As if you didn't add dialogue, they're like, you didn't write anything, so we're not paying you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually what people in the American comics industry believe. And that's why you need to go outside of the American comics industry to actually find something original or creative. Usually, you go into the indies, but now even the indies are being overrun by, people, refugees from...
failed medium.
Yes, failed comic creators, refugees from the big two who embarrass themselves or have like debilitating mental illness.
Themselves.
Yeah, they be clowning themselves. They have debilitating mental illnesses, so they couldn't make it in Marvel or DC, and they were like, C-listers at best, usually D-listers, and they go into indie comics and act like we're professionals actually because we worked at Marvel.
Talent. They don't have talent. And really, if you give your money to people like them instead of somebody like this, you deserve to have your money taken away from you.
Stolen. And it goes to show,
get nothing in return.
And again, this guy's just making a fan comic for Dark Souls 3, and it's better than like 99.99999.
You can see the love he has for his own work and for Dark Souls.
Yeah, for Dark Souls, for the comic storytelling medium, without you can also tell the way it's in black and white with not even a lot of shading in some cases. Just this top strip of panels. It's kind of in a way simple art but detailed. But more importantly than any of that is that it gets the point across without the guy spending too much time on the art where he would stop and be like, oh, I got to do this and I got to make sure. It's like, just keep plowing ahead. And that's what Endrian does, is that you can say like the finer details in the background may be a bit vague or something. But again, it's just showing the visual. That's all you need to do, is show the visual.
Honestly, I think these backgrounds are really super detailed. They look great.
But even when they're vague, they have that effect of being clear. Like this scratchy stuff here, you can tell is trees. These scratchy things here, you could tell is a stone wall with a portal in it. not a
And there's
metaphysical
like
portal,
coffins and more headstones
Yeah.
stacked up.
you can see what it is, even with like he may have only spent a few hours on this. I don't know. I have no idea what Endrian's
Well, that's the
process
thing is also this is what you see in the game when you end up here.
But like this
It's
might
like
be
the first thing you
the
see.
thing is, this might be the sketch layer for all we know too, and he just went with it and went ahead because again, it's just a fan comic, and that's the power of webcomics that people are hilariously, blissfully ignorant on, is that you can still tell a story and just plow ahead. You don't have to be like, oh, now we got to go to the inking and the coloring. It's like all you have to do is just get it on there, and you know, when if you're actually any good like Endrian is, it looks great.
Again, you also see the minimal use of color, which is very striking because her eyes are colored.
Yeah, it makes it that much more
It's
striking to see her eyes
a really
when they're
great
widened.
color too.
Yeah,
It's a really great choice of color. Also, her fat milkers hanging down,
yeah,
her bazooms,
nicely visible. An
and
appreciation.
nice muscle. Also, this third panel up here of just belly shot as she's equipping her club with just very tight, taut belly muscle, but also very smooth legs.
Without it even being too objective, it's like not purely I guess a little fan servicey, but it's not like as blatantly fan service as something like Stravaganza, which is also a good comic though. But that's just
And
like
there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with fan service.
no. There's nothing wrong with men liking attractive women, or even women liking attractive women. If Endrian is female, I really get the sense that Endrian just wants to see some milkers sometimes, or abs. I think abs is kind of a patrician fetish in a way. Fit grills patrician fetish. Also
Fit grills, but specifically fit with the combination that they are also overpowered easily
yes
by others. That is the best. That is
Riona.
The pinnacle, the alpha.
Yes, the next level ascendancy into like exploding galaxy brain is Fit Grill combined with Riona, but you know, with action too.
I do wonder though. How does she shave? How does she shave her legs if she's out here in the middle of the wilderness and undead?
She's she's undead, so she doesn't. Her legs don't grow, or armpits don't grow.
Well, man, now
hair.
she's even now.
More
All
perfect.
3D pigs should be undead.
Yes, by force. How can we make this happen? But so she truly is the perfect woman. Anyways, she gets out of her coffin again and sees basically that all the enemies she killed are back to life again.
Well, specifically, it's the first one from the very beginning has returned.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you see just from her facial expression, her reaction to seeing this.
Yeah, a nice, clean, clear, very, you know, again, it's
no fucking word bubble being like, oh no, they have all repopulated.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
That's another thing. If you can show a scene or something without any words, you should. You should every time. Now it is, as the writer,
especially
it's up to you, but still,
especially in a comic, if you can manage to do it, if it's a simple enough idea, if it's too complicated, obviously you might want narration, but in this you don't need it.
Yeah, you can see. In a way, it's like you're gleaning a lot from the visuals, but you're getting the idea. And again, because she's back at the beginning, you can say the story itself has sort of reset its progress, but it also understands. And again, the I was going to say cartoony, but it's not cartoony so much as stylized, but it helps to sell facial expressions and emotions better than realistic styles.
It also depends on how close the perspective is to the face if you're trying to sell a facial expression.
Yeah, you need a good close-up.
Close-ups.
You need a good close-up, and that's the perfect time for a close-up, but also it means that you should have the panel small so that you don't need to waste a giant amount of space on a close-up.
But in particular, if it's further away, then the face needs to be more expressive to carry over the actual expression.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's close up, you don't need that. If it's further away, you do.
But also, a close up is a good reason to blank out the background. Again, more
Yes.
good examples of this. You could see the background here, and instead of like a lot of people who play Dark Souls, as soon as they're tired of fighting the same old enemies, they just start running past, which is actually viable in Dark Souls, and I have to say that is kind of a positive of the game in a weird way.
It's viable, but you can't just do it.
And it's kind of funny the surprise on one of the undead skeleton guys. It's like, wait, what are you doing? You're not gonna fight? That sucks. But also the blanking out of the background to help accentuate the expression and the sort of surprise on the evil bad guy's face. And she runs back up to the crossbow guy, and blocks a shot, and then running up a nice. You could almost say it's a reference to Monty Python and the hologram. It's not though, but it's a nice expressive like 1-2 sort of match panel of her running up, like sprinting up as it's reloading, and then smashing him right in the face before he can get a shot off. And again, another scene, and just to show that this comic is not trying to retread, there's also an effect of the gutters fading from black to white around here. Like, they're black here, and when it goes into the sort of memory area, the gutters fade to white, and that's an interesting effect because it helps to signify the difference in perception. There's a lot of ways you can communicate that. Any trick you can pull, fucking go for it. And so Endrian clearly has an understanding of the space between the panels and what they can mean. The passage of time, or what this is a memory that she's seeing from the soul that she just absorbed. And again, a lot of Kwai faces, Kwai AF, if you will.
Here, I'm actually trying to skip ahead. Okay, chapter 4, page 37 is the part where she's fighting the huge end boss. It's it's pretty far in.
Oh, it's not the end boss, but it's Gundyr, you mean?
Yeah. Whatever. The one where she gets clawed.
Yeah, I want to just skip over that because again, if you like any of this, go check out. Just Google Endrian Deprived.
I think we've effectively explained the selling points.
Oh wait, hold on. This is some really good. There's some really good Riona here where she gets the crystal lizard. She's getting slammed around and she's just fucking. There's just blood and spraying. She's chugging her Estus flask here. To basically combat heal, which I did constantly. And she has like these big claw marks over her tits and her face and her arms and her legs.
One of the things that they use, one of the things the artist uses in order to not need to constantly have things moving over her fun bags to censor.
But also, here's one thing we've always said, going back many, many years, about why Riona is not just a patrician fetish, but it's great for storytelling, is because it establishes the stakes that your main character is going to actually face hardship in it, just in some way at least. And that they will,
especially for a female character. If it's a female character, a lot of lesser talents make their female characters into Mary Sues.
Mm-hmm. And one of the easiest ways, almost too easy, if you will, is just Riona. Just introduce like fucking this kind of stuff. And like one of her eyes is like kind of clawed out during this part. So, she finally runs past, and let's see. Yeah, again, here's one of the, before the first bonfire, some great scenery in the game of, like, the mountainside beyond and the skies beyond and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of great vistas in Dark Souls 3, and it's another thing that Endrian really captures well about the environment of the game in this comic is being established so well. And so she finally lights her first bonfire. Took her long enough, to be honest. It doesn't take this.
That's what you get when a girl plays a
Yes.
video game like
It's
Dark Souls.
it doesn't take this long in the game to get to the first bonfire, but it heals up her eye. Notice, so it's like, it's some of that effect of the of being undead is just that weird connection to the fire. It's a weird like supernatural kind of thing that is it's established that it happens in the game. They just don't explain how or why because it's sort of meant to be supernatural and mysterious, and I think that's another reason why people like the story and the setting of Dark Souls. I like the expressions here are also good, where she's sort of she's facing down a couple of the guards to Gundyr, and then all of a sudden it's like she's disappeared, and now she's jumping away and lands right on her ass. She did do a nice leap. This is one of the first jumps in the game where it teaches you how to jump because there's a treasure on top of this tomb or this coffin. But of course, she's not looting. This comic isn't about looting treasure. It's about the adventure. And
she doesn't. She only equips her, or she only upgrades her equipment one time, and it's when she replaces. It's actually kind of weird. Near the end, she replaces her bat or whatever the
club.
Wooden. The club. She replaces it with a sword eventually, but then it's like then she has the club back, and then she has the sword back again. I wasn't sure.
This is also interesting. A nice Riona shot. She gets hit with an arrow, kills this guy, and has a memory of the boss she's about to fucking face, which is in this arena right up ahead. And oh yeah, Deprived, a Dark Souls side story. This is clearly something that's supposed to be happening later. That has she equips the like insignia of Pharaon, which is like not a wolf god, but like some kind of wolf being that's like the watchdogs of Pharaon. And so she gets sort of pulled into another world where she's essentially like in the game, she is essentially a specter or a spirit pulled into another world, and then the red spirit is an invading spirit invading this other player's game, and so sometimes when you see like a purple spirit or a blue spirit or a red spirit in your game, it's like what are their intentions? You have no idea. So she just waves, he's confused, and then fucking giant enemy crab fucking pulverizes him, and it says duty fulfilled. So in a way, it's kind of like a little joke side comic, just interrupting the comic as a little in joke for people who have played the game. But if you haven't played the game, you can still get a sense of sort of what's going on. But back to this main story, a lot of bloodstains. As we established, you touch one, you get a memory of where another player died. So and this is what it usually looks like too, especially in this, just gets pulled into the air and slammed down. And the purpose of that in the game is to warn you that like a lot of other players have died here, and because of that, you better be on your guard, if you will. And so she gets to the first boss, Iodex Gundyr something.
Thanks to Team America, we can no longer say the word guard. Normally.
Yeah, I mean, it's not our fault. It's Team America's fault.
By the way, Chapter 4, page 37 is the one that you showed me to sell me on why we need to read this.
Yes. I mean, there's many reasons. The art and the way it tells the story. So she, like in the game...
Because otherwise, I don't really care that much about Dark Souls myself. I don't really care.
But yeah, in a way, this makes me more interested in Dark Souls than I even was normally. And I beat the game like 3 fucking times. Actually, I think I beat it like 4 or 5 times because I made a second side character.
That we played the Coop.
But I made like the Laylee character, and who actually kind of is reminiscent of this character because she wasn't a Deprived though. I'm never gonna. It's Dark Souls. I'm never gonna fucking make the game harder for myself if I can help it. But she had dark hair and a brown skin. hey, maybe we're just into the same stuff around
Mus-
here.
muscly.
But yeah, so she agores the boss and just runs her through, and she dies instantly. Starts back at the bonfire, and again in this comic, it gives a better sense of sort of that panic and the like the pain and fear that she was just experiencing in a way the previous life. In a way, every time you die, it's in Dark Souls, it's possible that you are then switching to an alternate universe where you're sort of resetting where you just were, but everything, sort of has that weird continuance, that sort of overlapping of time and universes. So but I can't speak for how Dark Souls really works. But again, going back, walks through the fog wall, which keeps you from exiting a boss fight. So she runs back up, and it's very Dark Souls how you this is a classic Dark Souls moment. It really makes you feel like you're Dark Souls, where you die in a boss fight, you just run back up and try and figure out how to do it better next time.
You wipe away your tears and then you go after
Yes.
it again.
And she's
Whenever
literally
you
does that.
finish crying, whenever it is you get around to finishing crying,
Prepare for tears.
while hugging your knees because you were just made pregnant with a spear.
Yes, pregnant with spear babies. Anyway, she takes a fucking vicious sock to the cheek that looks like it's just pulverizing some fucking jawbones there. But
she was told to shut up at least once now.
yes, now she's been told to shut up. She got hit with the shut up bitch. But here's another thing about Riona that, as we've said before, is that it's not just about having your character go through some hardships and difficulties, but then showing their resolve when they get back up, which is really hot in this, actually. She fucking
Also feet. Don't forget feet.
Okay.
I guess
some feet.
I almost forgot feet.
But I really
She doesn't have any shoes or boots.
Yeah, I really love this panel here though, where she's fucking she's standing defiant, and she's ready. She's in a fighting mood. Slaps.
It's also
him across
it's a
the
good
face.
example. It's actually a good example also of why Sucker Punch was such a letdown of a movie.
Yeah, because it should have been like this, but for real, none of the fucking dream sequence shit. But also,
And none of the she got hit. Oh, she's immediately fine.
yeah, yeah. That's another thing is she's
I was
immediately fine.
bored.
Yeah, it was immediately, but just the stakes. Yeah, in Sucker Punch, it's like the stakes are immediately stripped away when they get punched through like 20 walls or something, and then they just get right back up. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter, does it? Plus, it was all a dream sequence, and they're all the same person.
Yeah, they're all the same person, and her skirt's not even ripped.
Yeah, her skirt doesn't fly up to show her underwear like it would in anime too. It's like,
Her skirt should be completely gone after crashing through that many pieces of wood and stone.
yes. And again, now this is more cartoony. This facial expression just sort of sell. It sells the actual the menace and the danger she's in, but also at the same time being kind of funny. And then, kaboom! Fucking just gets run right through again, and yet another. See again, a good example of showing the passage of time. She wakes up in the. Well, not in the graveyard, but it's by the bonfire one more time. And she's, again, as they say in Dark Souls 3, prepare for tears. And she's just like, once you die twice on a boss, you sometimes are like, can I even fucking beat this? Usually, though, for me, if I die twice on a boss, the second time I was making better progress. And I was like, okay, I think I could do better on the third time. Or on the third time.
I think the boss that actually took me the most attempts was the demon boss that was by the huge ballista.
Yeah, you know what though? That guy was easy for me because I had summonables who I was able to bring in.
Yeah, I didn't find anyone who was coming to my game.
Well, the thing is that was like the one day where you played half a day without us cooping it, and I would have fucking joined in, but you just played alone, and you just went on that on your own.
Yeah, I wanted to try and muscle through. I figured we were doing so good, Coop, the two of us, that I should be able to solo at least something.
Well, you did. In fact, that's like one of the hardest places of the entire game because those fucking ballistas are so annoying. But there's like a sub boss right before that the ballistas shoot at. They shoot at you, and there's super giant ballistas that explode. And then there's a giant worm boss, like sub boss, that's not even a real boss. And then right next to that fucking worm, after you kill it, is the old demon boss. And the thing is, that's actually one of the few bosses that has an NPC that you can summon, and he's like I think he's a mage who fucking uses a whip. So it's like I don't know why you couldn't summon him because there usually are conditions you have to meet for NPCs to be summonable for boss fights. I was able to bring him in, but yeah, I'm not sure. But I kind of wish we could have cooped that, but we didn't. But you still got through it anyway.
Eventually, I was able to do the boss eventually by getting somebody to go with me, but it took a long time, and
Yeah.
I did a bunch of attempts solo.
Yeah, and every time you die, you do have to pop another ember. But I think I had given you like 40 just at the beginning of the game.
Yeah,
Like here's
well,
40 embers.
Yeah, or something. You gave me like 20, and of course I kept collecting. There's other ways to collect them too.
Yeah, every time you kill a boss normally on your own, you get an ember. Every time you kill an invader, you get an ember, and every time you help other players kill a boss, you get an ember. And you could just summon, you can slap your summon to sign down in front of a boss you haven't finished yet, over and over again, as many times as you want, and just keep racking up the embers and free souls and shit. And that's one thing that's actually one of the things I liked most about Dark Souls was just doing that on lots and lots of bosses, the Abyss Watchers and fucking you can't do it on this guy though because he's the first boss. They don't let you do summons yet. So she has to do it alone, and that really increases the stakes. And again, I really like the determined expressions and her intensity and stuff, and the detail though on the because it's funny in Dark Souls 3 is like just a regular guy in armor, really. That's it. It was almost like a bland boss for a first boss. It's like just a guy in armor, but in this comic it looks fantastic because he's so true to the detail. And again, just very slight hints of color, the glowing eyes here and her eyes and as well, and she does like sort of a dodge. I guess she nailed the iframes on this dodge perfectly because she takes no damage. But also her tits flopping up, which is very nice. I appreciate that. And
very excellent command of the weight of the chest.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I really have a good appreciation for in a lot of artists. That's another thing I like about Krekhov's art is that the muscle and the tits in his fucking chicks actually looks heavy, and I always really love when an artist can nail that look, and Endrian really nails that look. Even in this chick who's just regularly fit, she's not like some kind of bara hulking freak, which, you know, I'm into that too. That's pretty good. But it still looks good, here. And then there's some element of like corruption, like when something's just really old in Dark Souls 3, it has this like black goop stuff, and I'm not even sure if you can really hit it before it comes out on this first boss, but she does here, and that just fucking that really pisses it off. Well, not yet, but she's going fucking all out, and I love this blur effect, and it's something you just don't see in older Cape Cuck artists. I don't know why they don't do it because it looks fantastic. It looks so dynamic.
I know why they don't do it.
Oh wait, yes. Because they suck. But it looks it looks great here. This element, it looks so dynamic, and it just the action pops so much better just because of an understanding of this kind of style.
Every single fucking there's always one commenter in every page for the comment saying, "She's so hot. She's cute. This is so hot."
Well, not in this page.
I want to hug her.
Yes. I want to hug her. I want to wipe away her tears. I want to be her hero and kiss away her tears and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, okay. I mean, that is kind of the point of this comic too, I suppose. Aside from just being a Dark Souls 3 fan comic, it's about cute your Dark Souls waifu. That's what some people do, is they make their Dark Souls waifu in the game. Anyways, so she bashed him, and it's like, oh, does she win? But then no, a bunch of fucking shit. It's just shooting out of it, and here is an example of an exception to the rules we established. Like when you're showing a facial expression, usually you want it small. You want it small and like in the corner so that it's not taking up a giant amount of the page. But this page is just two facial expressions, and it works perfectly because it's selling a specific point, a specific reaction to a specific event. It sells the weight of her emotion to have the panels bigger in this example. So you gotta understand there's always a reason to break the rules, and Endrian clearly has a very good understanding of when and why. And I think it's instinctive. I don't think this guy studied at like art school or anything. Maybe he did. Maybe he studied at some kind of comic art school that teaches all these lessons.
I have a feeling that there isn't one of those.
There are comic art schools, but who needs it when you have our videos covering comics like this? And again, I'm sure... Like, you can ask someone like Doug TenNapel or Tim Lim, who, have a lot of experience.
If you do what you love, then this stuff does come naturally to you.
That's what I think is going on.
You don't need it taught.
I think that's exactly what's happening, is Endrian is taking stuff from comics he, or Kazee, has read and is psychologically, subconsciously drawing from them at just the right times, having just a good instinctive understanding. Now, learning them the hard way is good too. Having an innate understanding of them is good, and learning them the hard way is good. Because when you learn them the hard way, when you're taught them, as we were, because I've seen other people talk about these, but also like seeing how the sausage is made, sometimes gives you a better appreciation of the specific parts of them, the lack of bone fragments, sometimes, if you will. I don't know, but this page right here is an exception and a great example of when to use a facial expression for the entire page or for a giant panel instead of, as we were looking at earlier, one of the smaller kind of inset panels for reaction.
But it's also displaying the example I used. When you've got the face taking up so much of the panel, you need less expression. You need less expressionism in the fucking facial expression in order to get across the emotion being displayed. Because she's not pulling big, huge, wacky face. That's the thing. Is
that's a good point.
In one of the previous panels, she's pulling wacky face, and it's completely for comedy.
Yeah, and it works there.
It's like horror.
Yeah,
and the expression is
more blank,
very simple.
But still, it is still an expression, and you have to
everything. It tells you everything just with the face.
Yeah,
just face, eyes, mouth.
But also in a way, the sweat dorps. She is more than a bit sweat dorpish, but also like a singular tear. In a way, it's a little comedic, but it also sells the drama and like instant terror, confuse a terror, perhaps you could even say. Is that she's seeing something that, like, after all the fucking punishment she just faced and like dying 3 times on the first boss, pure scrub shit on her part, after finally thinking that she killed the first boss, all of a sudden she's facing the first boss's true form, which is this thing. And again, the detail, the shading, the detail, wondrous.
The detail. The top comment is, dude, WTF is with your artwork. It's on par with Berserk.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of Berserk. And again, it all ties together. I think Dark Souls took a lot of influence from Berserk. I think Endrian took a lot of influence from Berserk and clearly Dark Souls. And
Berserk definitely took a lot of inspiration from Western Europe, old European medieval
Yeah,
fantasy.
it's very medieval fantasy style, and the weaponry, the armor, all of that stuff. There are hints and appearances of like the Eastern, like the mysterious Orient, like the Swordmaster that I think is where this comic sort of uh
Yeah, that's
goes
the
on
final
hiatus.
page.
Yeah, the final page is her fighting the Swordmaster, which is another enemy that I was like, nah, I'm not gonna bother with this right now. It was another classic Dark Souls. I'll come back to this later boss fight, sub boss fight, if you will. Um, this, on the other hand, is fucking. It's great. It was a great first boss fight because it's freakish, but at the same time, you do get a really good sense of what boss fights should be, the difficulty, but at the
I
same
think I
time,
actually I managed to actually beat it on my first
yeah, I
attempt
think,
without dying.
yeah, I think
I was
you
being
did it.
really careful, and it was really close.
Yeah,
Though.
yeah. If you do it really carefully and you get your Estus flask so you can combat heal. I died once on this first boss, and I was like, well, it is Dark Souls. But second time, I got it, and I was like,
The special
cool.
edition of the first Dark Souls game was called Prepare to Die Edition.
Yeah, it was like the PC release, which is funny. Then they came out with Dark Souls HD, and then oh no, now this is actually a great warning. I click on the next page, and instead of showing it to me, it says the following content is intended for mature audiences, and it's just like that David Spade. Yeah, this is like yeah,
Yeah.
this is exactly what I want to see. Do I cancel or continue?
This next thing contains massive nudity.
This,
Yeah.
this warning. This next program contains massive nudity. Yeah, but this doesn't have nudity so much. She is nude, but here's the funny thing: is this next page though is it's not even violent. It's just she's not naked. She's just jumping away as the thing. She's like diving. She does a great dive dodge roll from this thing. And again, the
It's
great
again.
art.
Why can't we see that in like any other modern American comics?
Yeah, why
'Cause it's
isn't
not like they're not in that situation ever.
Yeah, why it's like hey cape shit, hey fucking comic skate. How come your comics don't even look half as good as this? And you can tell this is still kind of like sketch. It's not fully ironed out. Like Endrian might be like, oh, there's an error in this panel. And it's like, is there? I didn't even notice because I was looking at the fucking great action and shit. And again, giant. You get the sense of scale here that's on par with the comic, and just it closes in on her, is crushing her, gives her fucking chucks her across the fucking rocks. She's getting all beat up.
She's getting
Almost
all
falls off the
kinds of
cliff.
beat up.
Yeah, almost falls off the cliff. And again, the just the intimidation factor. This is usually where I get killed. But it's a nice close call, and like she wraps her sexy fit legs around like the pole of the
Her
the polearm.
perfect gams.
Fucking nice games, and it pulls her up, and again a kind of a comedic thing where it pulls her up like face to face, and she's like, "Oh boy, can you believe it? It's a living." That's her facial expression? Is it's a living? But then like throws her off and like just smashes her back against a rock. It's fucking legitimately brutal. Now the thing about the Estus flask is that it heals wounds. It does heal wounds. It'll make the wounds
recovers your
close
health.
up. I mean, yeah, because it recovers your health. And in fact, you can see like one of her eyes is closed here. She chugs from the Sunny
With
D
blood.
flask. Yeah, it's closed with blood and stuff, and then both of her eyes are open, but then she's overshadowed, and like there's that sort of splash
As
effect off to the side of her head.
her other eye opens to look at the thing.
Yes, to see
As the
something.
shadow goes over her.
And what are we gonna see? This following content is yeah, we know.
Contains massive nudity.
But in this, it's
Gams for days,
yes, games for days. It's
or
like
was it Gams of Honor? Or
no,
whatever
it's Silence of the Gams. That's what we're about to see.
That's what it was.
But
It's
the
great.
the next thing is like almost double splash page, kind of. It kind of looks a little cut off here, like it was a double splash page that's only showing part of it. Like it's
You know what? It might be
1.5. It looks like it's 1.5 pages in width. I'm not exactly sure.
I think they also, unfortunately, Taptastic doesn't play well with wide art for the original double page spread. Imgur, PNG.
Okay, wait. I do want to see this.
I wonder if I can open that. Yeah, here. The Imgur PNG goes right to the page.
Okay, yeah. Here we go. I just popped it open too, and again, this is like the 1.5 splash page where it's like a full page is being taken up. It's also something very manga-y.
Even being split in half, it still looks good from one half and the other.
Yeah, if you just go to the one half, but this right here looks really cool. And let's see. Let's go to the next page. I assume it's going to show.
She has She has a whole lot of blood. She's just soaked in blood, her own blood.
Yes,
she's covered in her own blood.
That's hot. It makes
me
wistful.
Blood is just dripping all over her nipples.
Well, hold on a sec. I'm not to that.
So that you cannot see them. Well, it's
Also, like this here in this first panel of this page where the hit misses and it blows up a lot of dust dust. But there's like this transparent effect where you can see your body slightly, partially obscured in like a big puff of dust too, and that's great, and it looks fantastic, and it's a great effect, and I really don't see a lot of artists doing it who learned from Cape shit. Only artists who learned from.
They don't know how.
And I don't want to say that manga is superior, but it is.
I definitely say the storytelling in manga is not superior. Yeah, I would never say that.
But here's the thing. Here's why the art in manga is better. Because they experimented more. They tried newer things. They tried different things. They tried different looks.
Telling them, you have to do the house style or you can't work here. Nobody ever said that to them.
Yeah. And a lot of them still were copying each other's styles and that kind of stuff, but you see a lot of them, like Origin, the guy who does Origin, the guy who does Berserk, and they're foreign names, so I'm not going to learn what they are. But they're great artists, and you can see they're making that kind of style their own. They're not just aping, they're transforming. Transformative content, you could say, which is kind of like what we're doing with this comic.
I definitely also have to say I respect that so much more than somebody who's just like, I'm gonna go and work for the big two and make $1 million.
I would kill my own family just to sweep the floor at Marvel. That's what Richard C. Meyer actually believes. Anyways,
why does he believe that? That's wrong. He's wrong to do that.
This does a very manga thing where it will go back and forth between kind of goofy, like, oh no, I'm about to get fucked up, and into like ferocity and intensity, and that can be a careful balance because I would say this comic at least comes just close to skirting that line. Maybe it has a little too much whimsy in it. But the intensity, when it gets to the intensity, it sells it so well that I'm willing to be like, you know what, that any tonal issues, because a lot of manga will have just complete incompetence in its consistent tone.
Again, we were talking about Bleach. I tried to watch the first episode a while ago because it was on Netflix, and it was so fucking shitty that I just turned it. I didn't even give it a chance because that was how it was trying to pull me in.
Yeah, it's like
the tone. It couldn't pick a tone, but also couldn't commit to them, and it couldn't do it well either. It couldn't even do the tone. It couldn't choose well enough to hold my interest anyway.
And that's another problem that some of them also have. And sometimes it's a problem I have with Berserk. But again, not to the degree where it really puts me off. I'd rather just have more Berserk than fucking...
With Berserk, I can absolutely forgive it because the rest of it is so good.
Yeah, the tone is like 90% consistent. So when it breaks tone, it's not that much of a problem. And again, that's what's happening here, especially as... like there's a big cloud puff and then the claws come out. She sees it and puts up her arms to block, and it's so she ends up with her fucking arms just slashed across, as well as her fucking eyeballs getting slashed out. That's hot. I mean, wistful. Oh wait, no, it's not. It's neither.
Makes me wistful, but also her tit bags.
Yes, her tit bags getting slashed across.
Her bags of tit.
I think she sort of protected her tits here. Yes, very responsible.
She did a good job of guarding. She just failed to protect her eyeballs.
Yes. I mean, she doesn't have. I guess she's going two-hander. She doesn't have her fucking shield. To be honest,
This is why you always go with your shield.
I always bulked up so I could carry the heaviest. I had Havel's fucking shield, not his hammer. I went with the Exile Greatsword as my weapon, which I know is like one considered like ew, Exile Greatsword. You noob. I don't care. I don't give a shit.
I don't remember what I had. Does the game have cloud saves? Not that I'm going to install just to find out what equipment I had.
I think it does have cloud saves, and I would like to actually pop in. Just I don't have to put in a disc or anything. Thank you, Steam. You're great, Steam. Thank you, Gaben Godden, and his friend God Howard, who actually I don't like the fucking the Bethesda launcher. It's like, just stick with Steam, you fucking pieces of shit. But whatever.
Whatever.
Again, fucking. So the consequences are like higher, but it's also like you can't get your eyes slashed out in the game. But if you could, would it matter? Because you're dead. You're dead. You're not alive in this game. Does it matter if you can see?
Does Retsin work if I'm a soul?
Can I still have butter if I'm a soul? Help me. But anyways, she sort of taps into her inner Jean-Claude Van Damme, pops rage, because
activates bloodlust or whatever.
It's actually, yeah, that's another aspect of the game which I almost never used, was if you use like a two-hander.
They say it's I'm sure this is the weapon art for that club.
Yeah, going Super Saiyan, lol. I think, yeah, the weapon art, as in I think it's a special skill. A lot of the weapons in the game have a special skill that will use up some of your magic. So if you're not a magic user, you can still have things that use up your magic, and some of them is like an extra heavy attack. And I think that's what she's going with here. But it works in a very anime sense, though. But it actually works in the context of the game. She's using up some of her magic, which she clearly was not using up until now because she doesn't have any magic. And she's popping some of the magic. I think the club's magic, too. The club's special attack effect is like a buff that makes you do more damage, possibly the lower health you have. I think that's... I could look it up on a wikia, the wikia for fucking Dark Souls 3, on Fextra Life or fucking whatever. But, you know, it doesn't matter because it's sold in the comic. We see what's happening, or she has this effect. And she's hitting fucking her arms up, but very tasteful non-nudity in a way, which is interesting. But again,
it's a million times hotter than your attempts by Western Cape fag artists.
Yeah, the American
to draw sexy women.
American Cape Cuck artists who just, as Jerk defined it, hard boobs that have like no gravity or weight or shifting to them. There's no bounce. There's no there's no actual real effect. They're just like rocks in a woman's chest. That's the way American comic artists draw them. They suck. But again, this has a lot of the influence from other artists and creators from around the world. That's the new era we live in, is you can take all your influences from so many places around the world. Now she lands that one final hit and he finally dies, and her arms together, squishing her tits together to show actual titty meat physics. Again, something very underappreciated, but starting to be the new era of comic artists, you know, artists and comics art and all that stuff. And so she absorbs the soul, and there is backstory with this guy of Gundyr, and when he was, because you can fight Champion Gundyr later in the game, and he's actually harder than this, because he's not the crippled warrior and that kind of stuff. And there's, I don't know if Sif is involved, but there's some kind of wolf involved, and there's some kind of weird creature that you know, sort of becomes infesting. And again, if you looked up like a wiki to the backstory of these characters, you would see the description of a lot of what you're seeing here. So in a way, Oh, and here's one of the great serpents also, which you don't see in Dark Souls 3, really. At least I didn't. I don't know. I didn't actually play the DLCs, I have to admit. I didn't buy them, which is a shame. But yeah,
And I
again,
didn't either, so I don't
yeah.
know. I don't even know what the DLCs are.
But yeah, I mean, I might get the DLC sometime. But yeah, here, Gundyr is slain in combat, and this weird creature sort of goes into his armor and sort of takes over, sort of symbiotically takes over his body, and just sits there for who knows how many years, for forever, for never, for 1,000 years, for 1,000,000 years, for 10 years.
Maybe a day. Maybe a day.
Yes, exactly. It's that kind of weird setting of Dark Souls, and yeah, it's corrupting him, and she's seeing all these memories, and yeah, here also to stop it, he takes the coiled sword, which is the sword in every bonfire in the game. So it has some kind of power to it, the sword and the fire, and plunges it into his chest to sort of stop or to not stop the
To put
corruption.
like to put a halt to it.
Yeah, but to put in stasis. Now, another thing, by the way, in the previous panels, just going back, this is a memory, but it still shows the dark gutters, and which you could say is inconsistent to how we were seeing the memories earlier. But we know it's a memory because we know how this works now. We've seen her absorb souls from enemies she's defeated and see their memories. So we know all of that was a memory, of course. So you don't need the extra hints necessarily, and that's a good thing. And so the bonfire appears, she lights it, and it heals her up entirely. Her eyeballs grow back. Good job. Good job getting your eyeballs to grow back. And she's healthy and ready to move on to the Firelink Shrine beyond the big doors. And again, another great shot of scenery of just what's beyond the doors is like another big cliffside. There's something about From Software where they have a giant hard-on for cliffsides, but rightfully so because they turn it into some great scenery, and the kind of withered ancient, like it's an abandoned universe and that kind of stuff. He links to like his main website page now, which is to Dark Matter Mysteria, which the I couldn't really find a way to read the comics on there. This is the only on Tapas. This is like the only way I could fucking find a way to read it. And she sees Firelink Shrine, and there's a hint of the Firekeeper inside, but she has to actually go in there. There's some other monsters, and we're getting to the Swordmaster, which again was only like an optional boss. And again, hints of memories of the people she's fighting and how they're maybe a little more difficult. Some treasure here. Here's a homeward bone. When you find some glowy things on a corpse in the game, it's a treasure. You pick it up. Homeward bone lets you teleport back to the last bonfire. So all of it's canon accurate. In fact, here this comment says, "Hey, oh hey, a homeward bone," which is handy in the game, but I kind of never really needed it because in a way you could just die and go back to your the previous bonfire. But a homeward bone lets you go back without dying, so that's a nice thing. Here's you almost expect here as she's like creeping up on some guys who are just sitting around. She's like, "Heh, I got the drop on these guys." You kind of expect this to go wrong, and sure enough, there's a shadow, and then more guys off to the side. They hit her with a fucking arrow. And again, I really like this close up, her fucking glowy eyes and stuff. And so she starts running, and it's like, yeah, you just get to the Firelink Shrine, but she's trying to run and climb, and it's a good thing they didn't. One of them grabs the bottom of her loincloth. It's a good thing they didn't pull that off. I mean, she would just completely starkers.
So just pull her whole ass open.
They're just goat see her right in front. So yeah, just running away from these guys, she runs up to the Swordmaster, and that ain't good. And I think this is one of the Asian characters in the game. Asia. Name this continent. But he's also got like, writing on his forehead, and he is defeatable at this point, but also you kind of don't want to. And he slashes, and in a very sort of stylistically fitting way, it's like you see the slash, and then you see the sort of delay, and then her body sort of goes to black, so you can see just the giant spray. She's like cleaved in twain, right across the tits, and then wakes up at the last bonfire.
She tit fucked his sword.
Yes, and
she's just tit fucking his sword. So I'm actually reading another page now, later on, where she gets backstabbed by one of the fucking regular guys.
That's coming up on the end. It's like, so after
while she's kind of mushing her tits together while she was doing it, and it's like, oh man.
Here's also this is like a condensation sort of panel where you see sort of specters of her movement going across, and I usually don't like this effect, but I do like it here because it's still pretty dynamic. The action's dynamic. I usually prefer it in individual things, but it also what it serves to show is like the speed of. It's like she's moving so fast, she's pounding through these guys so fast that it can't even be contained in multiple panels. Yeah, and she's
improving at the combat.
Yeah, she's getting more accustomed. Just like in Dark Souls, you just get more used to the enemies and their moves and where they're going to be, because you know where they're going to be. If you die, they're going to just be in the same place where you fought them last time. And there's still this effect again when it goes into the memories. You see these sort of blanking into white in the gutters. So in a way that's consistent for these regular people. For the quick flashes too. And again, usually I don't like this effect, but it works really well because it shows the quickness of how she's getting through it, and also just all these various memories, and she's fucking maybe emptying her Estus flask there as she's moving on. And in a way, this is also a classic Dark Souls moment, is whatever killed you last, you tend to want to get revenge on it. So instead of avoiding it, you fucking go right back to it. I mean, because you do have to get your souls back. It's a lot of souls. You can use that for gaining experience and shit. And again, the flashes of memories that have like it's like a good father teaching his kids, oh, he's reading, or they're fishing, or they're doing whatever. It's just
the very quick flashes continuously as she through a whole bunch, a whole crowd of enemies.
Yeah, it's interesting how it tells a little hint of backstory of how these people used to live and apparently had normal lives, and who knows what happened, why people just can't die anymore. It seems to have something to do with the fire, linking the fire or something. But whatever people did, they sure aren't doing it anymore. And then, here's the panel where she's like, phew, she blew through a lot of stuff, and then all of a sudden just getting fucking run through. And again,
just impaled so hard she's going to have sword babies.
Yes. The sword is just coming straight out through the middle of her fucking tits, which is great. But again, because you're undead, you can kind of walk it off. It's not good. You want to heal, but
if your health is still high enough.
Yes, and so her health is high enough. And so it creates this weird visual of her walking off of the blade. And you can see she's fucked up.
Yeah, the blade being pulled out through her back again.
Yeah.
As she kind of shoves the guy away. She's shoving the guy back as she pulls herself forward.
And then she gets the memory of Hot Bishi, who fights the sword master in their younger days, and he slashes across his face. But it's like,
I think it's sword master is the Bishi.
Well,
you can see he has the writing on his forehead.
They're both kind of. I think they both can qualify, perhaps. But they were also friends, and so here you see like the aftermath of just being backstabbed, and it's like her tits are all bloodied, and it actually looks kind of freakish and gory. She empties her Estus flask here, and it's not going to heal everything all the way up. But once again, she goes to face the Swordmaster, and that's where the comic ends. Chapter 5 concludes next week. I guess that was October 28th, 2019. So it wasn't too long ago, but it clearly I
It
miss.
didn't continue
Yeah, it didn't continue. Hopefully,
when
and it
he
might
said
continue.
it would.
Yeah, it might continue someday in the future. I hope it does. Um, I can't tell you to say, hey, go read this comic. It supports it. I guess if you fucking um, go to his site or something, he has a link to a Ko-fi or that kind of stuff. I think he has a Patreon, but it doesn't even get a lot of money because he can't really offer much stuff, and who knows what he's doing, or she, or
Plus,
whatever.
apparently, people are giving their money to things like Red Rooster.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that's embarrassing. That's pretty sad. Um, so yeah, here's a link to support him on Tapas. But again, and he's got other comics. Like here's Inquisition and Grand Tournament are a couple other comics, but they stopped. Their latest updates were 2016. Um, but this stuff's pretty good too. And this one's only 32 pages. I think this is the latest page, so I'm starting at the end here. But again, I always really liked this guy's art. And this is again, this is from 2016, so this is his old stuff, and you can kind of see how it's still improved in a way. And this one actually has dialogue too.
It started in 2016. The last update was October something 2019.
Okay. Well,
This is the last one.
well for the Grand Tournament thing. What was I just looking at? I don't know. The Grand Tournament, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure when these may have.
Where is that?
It's on
Is that
his
another
front page.
comic?
If you go to his profile on Tapas, it will show like a Inquisition. Clearly, he's got handfuls of ideas for different stories and comics and characters. Like these other ones have dialogue, and just fucking goofy hijinks and adventures and settings that are in this same style. And I really like this style of his art because it's not just animu, it's clearly an owning of the style. It's not an imitation.
I would really hope that I would have the opportunity to work with somebody this good if they could make something of mine.
Yeah.
Since their location is United States, so in case you're thinking that
Was this guy
that they're
Korean
actually
or
in
something?
Japan.
I mean, this guy could be Korean for all I know.
Yeah,
I don't know anything
possibly,
about this guy.
but it says they're posting from the United States.
Hmm.
Joined July 2016.
He has a Tumblr, a website, which
Oh boy,
the Patreon.
Tumblr. I can't imagine their Tumblr has been updated at any.
Yeah, exactly.
Anytime soon.
A lot of people. $4, one patron, $4 per month. Man, that's fucking. I'm almost tempted to fucking donate so he's getting more than fucking $4. Yeah, that's what his Patreon's getting. It's fucking crazy. But I mean, I don't know where the guy disappeared to.
What the fuck?
Yeah, because look at this art. He's only getting $4 per month on Patreon. Now, granted, you're not going to get anything that he's not just going to post in public. But I mean, sort of the point of Patreon is to just support an artist who's making stuff you like, not for like the bonus hidden paywall material. But I mean, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying the paywall option is bad. I'm not saying either option is bad. I'm saying that they're both options. And if I had a little extra money, I can never tell if I'll have even an extra dollar.
Just imagine if we had the kind of money to throw around where we could fund
Yes.
the production of other talented artists. Just imagine an idea like that where you have like a movement where somebody did that, where somebody decided, hey, these people deserve more work.
Yeah, that was about supporting creators and artists. That would be pretty cool.
But specifically supporting them because they're good at what they do, not just because they're loyal to your beliefs and your worldview.
Or because they're popular in some other fucking comic, at some company.
Yeah, and you want
some
to farm.
Shallow company.
You're trying to farm clout.
Yeah.
That is wrong.
I believe in supporting an artist, a comics creator's liberty, if you will, their human freedom.
That's liberty of a comic book artist.
That's what we've been for many years, going on the better part of a decade, easily.
And I'm not going to go back from that. I'm going to hold up to that.
Yes, I'm not going. All I got in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. So I guess that doesn't have much to do with Endrian. I have to admit, if I had the money, I would buy Endrian. Just buy this motherfucker. I'd be like, here, you're making comics for me now for the rest of your life. What are you gonna do about that? Fucking piece of shit. Oh wait, that's not nice. That's not nice to say. But yeah, again, just this comic, it's just a Dark Souls 3 fan comic, and there's so many lessons that artists can really learn just from looking at it, from reading it.
I cared more about the story and characters in this than I did in a million pages of any American cape shit.
I cared more about the story and characters in this than I did actually playing Dark Souls 3, and it's a Dark Souls 3 comic. I didn't know that was possible.
Well, that can happen. That's the strength of storytelling.
Now this is the power of comics. Yum yum. What? What?
No.
But anyway, so yeah, Endrian, great artist. Deprived is a great comic. You could check out his other two comics. Inquisition, actually really liked as well. But again, it started off and then it just ends in like the end of like the first chapter. And you can tell this guy has like big epic stories he wants to tell. Maybe that are too big for himself. Like at some point, you feel like it's like, oh, okay, I had this idea for the scene. Now I made the scene a comic. Now what do I do? That's the trickiest part about writing, is especially from artists, and I think artists like this, like he may know generally where to go next, but he may not have the next scene in mind.
You have the guidepost of the game itself, the actual events
for
that carry forth in the game.
Yes, for Deprived, but that's the thing, is that for Deprived, he has Dark Souls 3 to go from. For these other, he's, Grand Tournament and Inquisition here, if you read them, you can tell he's going off his own thing. But he had ideas.
Read them, so I can't say.
They're good. They are definitely good. They're worth reading, and they're very short because they're just like one chapter. It's like 30 pages tops for each of them. They're shorter than Deprived. He put more work in Deprived because I think Deprived, has that setting and the events laid right out in front of you, that he could just pull from, probably from memory. I remember like what happens after you kill Gundyr. You go up the fucking hill into the Firelink Shrine, and it may be hard to continue from there because it's kind of actually dialogue. There's a necessity of the dialogue because the Firekeeper tells you have to go kill the Lords of Cinder or whatever the fuck, and so it's like at that point it may be hard to tell the story without dialogue, because the game did it all with plenty of dialogue, not tons, but enough. And this is all without dialogue, so it creates its own challenges, but it's worth experimenting. It's worth trying because it can improve you as an artist, as a creator, as a writer, as a comics maker. This is what you should be doing, is even if it's just a fan work, you should be experimenting. You should be seeing what you can do, what you're capable of, but also maybe what you're not capable of. What you can go up to your limits and see how much you can breach them. And I think that's a great example of what's going on here with his comics. That's why I always appreciated his art, because I think the Grand Tournament was a very old, much older concept, because I think I remember reading a bunch of pages from it from when he just doodled on the Yokaki or something. And it was interesting, but it was only like one chapter. And I think after that he was like, where do you go specifically? What's the next scene? I think he's trying to write in scenes. And he's like, okay, here's this scene. Here's the beginning of my comic will be this scene. And once that scene is played out, it's like, okay, what's the next scene? And really, that's why
this is where having a writer would really pay off.
Well, yeah, or somebody who can help you properly structure a story, at least to get you to that next scene. And with an artist like this, it would be fucking actually great to work with him. But he just kind of disappeared, and the thing is, it's clearly his universe, so I can't tell him what he wants too. So it's not like I would be like, here, I'll write it for you, but because I don't think I could really write for him, because I think it's really his labor of love. The Inquisition specifically, if I'd say go and fucking read it. But again, Deprived is that it shows what he's got, and what he's got is a great control of comic storytelling. And even a lot of comic artists don't have that understanding or control of comic storytelling. But I would say people like Doug TenNapel actually and Tim Lim have a pretty good understanding of that, or great, or a mastery of it even. And I think Endrian is another example of somebody who has that level of control, but is kind of overlooked because he's not in print. He's not, writing for or he's not making for the big two cape shit, any of that stuff. And he shouldn't have to. This is the reality of comics. The interest in comics is it's turning into a sort of hobbyist industry where it's the next masterworks are being made by people who just do this for fun. And that's really worth considering, but it's also worth patronizing in a way. It's worth supporting. It
deserves attention from people,
because it's not like some kind of hidden appeal. It's not like, oh, it's an acquired taste. The appeal is right there. It has that great art style, great expressive, great detail, all that stuff right there, right up front. It's not hidden. It's not hard to find. Any noob, any dummy can look at his comics and be like, wow, that looks good. And it's well made, and it's telling a story well without even saying it out loud. You just know it. And so yeah, that's why we wanted to review this comic for a long while. Finally got around to it. And it's also one of the reasons why we don't review a lot of comics, because after we said all this about this comic, what else is there to say about any comic? We're too big picture. We've covered the big picture about the making, the concepts, the ideas, the overall, not just the specifics. You can find examples in the specifics, but it's about the overall and having a good understanding of it. And I don't even say we have a good understanding. We have a complete armchair understanding of it. But it's still there to be seen.
We still have a better understanding than some other people who should know better.
Yes, people who pretend and think they know better, but they don't. People who say, oh, I have a long history in making comics. And it's like, that's weird, because you do have a long history in making comics, and you're still not as good as this guy. It's quite funny, quite interesting. Anyways, I thought the chat would be showing up, but it is not, so that's too bad. I don't know if anyone was showing up at the chat or if it's streaming not. I don't care as long as it's recorded. So that wraps it up for this. Again, I'm going to be keeping an eye on Endrian's stuff. I'm going to see if he ever updates Deprived, even if it takes a year or two. I don't know. I want to every once in a while check in on him. Like if he had a Twitter or something, I would be able to keep up with that easier. And that's an advantage of having a Twitter account, for just being like, hey, I updated my comic. Here's something I did. Check it out. Just easy to follow. That's an upside of social media. But yeah, that's that's something that I hope that he does more pages of something, anything. I don't care. It's like Valve. It's like make a game with 3 in the fucking title. Any of them. I don't care. Just any of them. But then they made Half-Life Alyx, and it's like, oh wait, well, I have to pay $1,000, but I want this game so bad. Anyways.
Well, there's just a video. I still have to watch it because we have to finish this video. Playing Half-Life Alyx without VR.
Without VR? Shit. I didn't know that was possible.
I don't know what it means.
I wonder if we own a Half-Life Alyx, because we might, without knowing it.
How would we own it without knowing it? Well,
if that's our secret. But anyways, speaking of secrets, make sure to unlike, reshare, don't comment, unsubscribe. Make sure you're still unsubscribed. Don't hit the bell for notifications. And I don't know if we'll be reviewing. Every time we review a comic, I don't know if we'll ever review one again. So this could be our last review of any comic ever. So what do you think about that? Make sure to go to or patreon.com/smuglaily to support our reviews. You won't get anything really, but you will support us. That's all that's important. I would say even if you have $1 to spare every month, maybe you should go to Endrian's fucking Patreon, give him $1 too.
Certainly you can spare $1.
Just to show that people noticed. I'm tempted to give him $1 a month.
Yeah, move the needle, the real
Yes.
needle.
Yeah, move the real needle for people who really matter, like this guy. Or person, perhaps.
Stop worshiping stupid celebs. Did you see that thing about the celebrity? These celebrities are going without makeup.
Yeah,
Well, they're not wearing makeup
Yeah, stop
for the duration of the quarantine. It's like, wow.
stop worshiping status and start worshiping skill. If you're going to worship anything, worship skill. And that's what we're really about. That's what comic liberty's about.
If you're not going to do what we tell you, at least give away all of your money so that you can cease to be.
Give it to people who actually deserve it, because you don't, you piece of shit, loser. You piece of shit. Anyways, you're about a piece of shit, and your 5-year-old daughter is about a piece of shit too. She sucks.
She's a nerd. She's a loser.
Yeah, what was the thing? She's just a loser, was the thing you said.
Yes.
Anyways, yes.
Her an incel. She's a fucking
incel. Anyways, oh shit, this is like
anyway.
2 hours long. Holy fuck. Okay, yeah. So
man, we sure do have a lot to say. I don't know why do so many other people do 5-hour streams and say 1/10 or 100th of what we have to say.
Yeah,
what are they, stupid?
We just packed 10 hours of content to this 2 hours. Anyways, all right. The end. We'll see you next time. Maybe. Who cares?